that the pro-life movement has actually been better at its ground game. It's been better at its tactics of organizing, community organizing in particular. So there has, at the cultural front, been a movement largely grassroots in nature, but supported institutionally. But we can also see a growing public sentiment. Polling has indicated a growing American sensibility against the placement of additional limitations on abortion. In a Pew Forum report of October of 2009, 76% of Americans argued that there should be parental notification laws. And in a recent Gallup report of May of 2010, the article basically articulates a conservative shift in American views on abortion. I think that it's common knowledge as well to understand the ethnic and racial diversity and how that factors into these questions of popular sentiment, especially if we look at first and second generation immigrants in the United States who tend to hold more traditional views towards the position of, on the position of abortion. And if we think about this in light of the demographic trends that are taking place in this country, these will definitely shape public sentiment on the matter for time to come. As recent census numbers estimate, the minority population in the United States hovers around 35% of the population. So these demographic trends will definitely have and make some type of impact in what direction we're still trying to determine. At the rhetorical front, we can look at long-standing nonprofit organizations like National Right to Life, Feminists for Life, who have been around the political scene for about 4 decades, and then new nonprofit entrants like the Susan B. Anthony List and Silent No More, who are working alongside these more traditional groups who have framed their institutional missions in a more pro-life feminist direction. The public spokespersons are women for these organizations largely. And in the organization Silent No More, it is often women who are speaking out against their own abortions in an effort to educate the public on their lived experience. These organizations see their role as agents of change that interface with the scientific and political communities, with lobbyists, with the public, and with the media. And they've helped expand and help to understand a new rhetorical framing of the term feminist by self-avowed feminists. In a certain sense, if we think about these 3 factors, the structural, the cultural, and the rhetorical, we might say that there's not simply one cause that's driving the reason for pro-life feminist candidates running for office, but in the words of Max Weber, an elective affinity exists between these factors and the reason why these candidates are coming into the public square. So what I'd like to do is look very briefly at 2 candidates in particular and then close. Susana Martinez, who is district attorney for Doña Ana County in New Mexico, is running for the governorship of New Mexico, and Nikki Haley, who had circulated in the news a lot this past summer, who is current state representative in South Carolina, also running for the governorship. Martinez is a Hispanic American. Haley is a second-generation Indian immigrant. I chose them for their ethnic backgrounds because they represent current demographic trends taking place in their states. Martinez lives in a state where 46% of the population is Hispanic, and an additional 17% are African American, Native American, Asian, and mixed race. Haley lives in a state of South Carolina where 35% is African American, Asian, Hispanic, and of mixed race. But I chose them for other reasons. Martinez is the first Hispanic woman nominated by a party for governor in the United States. And in her race against Denise Denish, the lieutenant governor of New Mexico, this is actually the 3rd woman versus woman governorship race in the United States history. I chose Haley because if elected, she would become the 2nd Indian American governor in the United States and the 1st Indian American female governor. They are not single-issue politicians. While pro-life squarely is featured on their agenda, their main issues are part and parcel of that Martinez's main concern is driving out corruption and crime, children's advocacy, border control, limited government, and Haley's main concerns are tax reform, transparency, economic prosperity, and term limits. So the pro-life message is part of their political messaging, but not simply the only one, and it's not the one that they're highlighting above all the other issues. I think that their campaigns are significant, particularly regarding their ethnic background and the degree to which this country is becoming sort of more and more minority represented. And in the field of public management, a term that's used quite frequently is cultural competency, and how public agencies in particular deliver culturally competent services to particular ethnic and racial groups that are underrepresented. And I think we might actually be able to use that word here to the degree that for many immigrants, particularly first and second generation, where they hold more traditional views, especially on the life issue, perhaps what we're seeing is a culturally competent approach perhaps in political representation. So in conclusion, I would like to say that in the New York Times, Ramesh Ponnuru dubbed this year the Year of the Pro-Life Woman. This was in June. A week later, the National Catholic Reporter featured the same story. 5 days later, Kathleen Parker of the Washington Post entitled an article, A Feminism That Spans from Palin to Pelosi. So something's definitely going on. Parker's conclusion was that equality means that every woman has a voice. And I think if we look to the words of James Madison in Federalist Number 10, where his argument was that a multiplicity of interests is beneficial to the flourishing of political society. His solutions were not to control the voices that speak out, but actually to allow them, to extend the sphere, to take in a wider variety of interests, to refine and enlarge the public view through political representation. I want to end by citing Camille Paglia, who also has a few words to say on the recent crop of pro-life feminist candidates, and this was actually something that she articulated about 2 years ago. And she basically quotes the following: "It is foolish to expect that feminism must be for all time inextricably wed to the pro-choice agenda. There is plenty of room in modern thought for a pro-choice feminism." Thank you.